This is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Kayaba Avenue. I'm Jenna Bosonko. Thanks for joining us. Now, here are the main news headlines. We hear from Saliu Tal, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, on the prospects of justice for victims and prosecution of ex-president Yahya Jammeh and his alleged co-perpetrators for their alleged crime. Government ministries, departments and agencies have highlighted the general challenge of internet connectivity on their current ICT infrastructure and projects. The Central Bank of the Gambia is to establish the country's first capital market to create a platform for buying and selling financial securities. We visit two men to discuss their inspirational journeys and daily struggles for survival to prove that disability is not inability. And in international news, in what is described as a major breakthrough, a surprise ceasefire deal has been reached in the Ethiopian civil war, with both sides agreeing to halt their two-year conflict. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News, and I am Jenna Bosonko. Now, there are serious commitments being demonstrated by the government of the Gambia in seeking justice for victims of ex-president Yahya Jammeh and his alleged co-perpetrators by prosecuting them for their alleged crime. Suleiman Dabo speaks to Saliu Tal, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, about the prospects for justice for the victims and other related issues. More in this report.
12 months after the TRRC presented its report to President Barrow as required by the TRRC Act, and almost 6 years since ex-President Jammeh left office, the Minister of Justice, Dauda A. Jallow, was in Abuja, Nigeria on Monday for a meeting with ECOWAS officials. The Justice Minister is exploring and seeking the support of the regional body in prosecuting Jammeh. The Justice Minister returned on Tuesday. In an interview with Voice of America on Monday, Mr. Jallow explained that the Gambia may not be well equipped and prepared to try ex-President Jammeh locally, and thus the need for a hybrid court with the backing of ECOWAS to effectively prosecute Jammeh and his alleged perpetrators. As a sovereign country, what could stop Gambia from prosecuting Jammeh from within its borders? Saliu Tal explains.
The Bar Association, in collaboration with the Minister of Justice, victims, stakeholders, and even the international community, has been looking at the different options for prosecution as far back as 2019, even prior to the completion of the Truth Commission work. And serious work has been done in looking at different options of prosecuting. And obviously you have the domestic option of looking, exclusively domestic, looking at Gambian courts, or international, or looking at hybrid, which is both. Exactly. So I think we will agree that the ICC would not be the most ideal, because it will leave out a good part of that history of the regime. And I don't think that would be in line with ensuring that those crimes go unpunished.
We also engaged Mr. Tal as an independent observer from outside of the government on his take on the implementation of the TRRC report.
I think the recommendations are in line with what is expected, and I think there's high public acceptance of the recommendations in terms of particularly the bold recommendation to prosecute 69 people, including the former president, and some of the junglers, the members of the junta, and others. I think that was very bold and in line with the expectation and in line with the evidence and the testimony before the Truth Commission.
While the efforts of government in prosecuting Jammeh cannot be discounted and in fact deserves encouragement, the plight of victims in terms of their expectations for justice to be served and to be served expeditiously equally cannot be ignored. What seems to be a disconnect between the victims and the state is the lack of effective communication between them. The government has made clear its intention to accept the majority of the TRRC's recommendations. However, for all the stated intentions by the Barrow administration about seeking justice for the victims, Only the implementation of those recommendations will dispel victims' doubts about the administration's intentions. Moves to garner support for the ex-president's prosecution show that the administration may implement its intention. Suleiman Dabo for QTV News.
Government ministries, departments and agencies have highlighted the general challenge of internet connectivity on their current ICT infrastructure and projects. This constraint could affect implementation of government's digital transformation program. As QTV's Mohamed Lamin Choi reports, the Communications and Digital Economy Minister has outlined a way out of the internet connectivity challenge.
The two-day retreat of senior government officials has provided the platform for interaction on the implementation of government's ICT projects and programs. And a general concern manifesting in the presentation of participants is a digital transformation agenda facing the challenge of internet connectivity. Amadou Nyang is the ICT Director of the Communications and Digital Economy Ministry.
So I think it is important for the new Minister, Honorable Ba, to really reflect and know these are sometimes the general concerns of each and every stakeholder rolling out ICT projects, because connectivity is actually a prerequisite. You cannot have good systems in place if the connection is not stable.
In line with its purpose, the outcome of the retreat has shown the spotlight on the general problems and state of government's ICT infrastructure for officials of the Communications and Digital Economy Ministry, including its minister. Following this are plans for solutions. Usman Eba is the Communications and Digital Economy Minister.
When people talk about why we don't have enough internet or why internet is slow in this country, because of capacity. So we have to secure a second submarine landing cable.
If any situation taught us the biggest lesson for the need for digital infrastructure transformation, it is perhaps the COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted and forced many institutions to adapt to working or doing business online. Notably, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, which has limited capacity to adapt to ICT demands to deliver lessons, because nearly half of the schools in the Gambia lack access to electricity. Louis Moses Mendy is MOPSI's PS.
About 9.8% of our entire schools only are the ones with internet connection. So that is a challenge. You can look at 9%, not even 10% of our schools. That's a very limited number. That's a very small number. So unless we have a greater coverage of internet provision in our schools, the agenda that we are pushing as a sector, as a ministry, that is bringing teaching and learning into the doorsteps of the students, will be a dream that may not be fulfilled because we will not be able to get the infrastructure into the classrooms. What we have tried doing is that in the recent past we have redeployed some smart TVs to the schools and also smart boards. Over 200 smart TVs have been deployed to the senior secondary schools and upper basic across the country.
The Digital Economy Minister's assessment of the present state of our country's ICT infrastructure is that it is at ground zero and needs transformation for sustainable economic development.
And that can be done only by having a second submarine international gateway connection in the country. Secondly is having a data center where we can store all our data without having to take our data out of this country, and also able to sell it to other people outside. The third one is a payment gateway, which is the one that wakes me in the middle of the night.
From this retreat, with the backing of Cabinet, the Communications and Digital Economy Minister plans to formulate strategic plans with timeline to realize its targets for our country's digital transformation. For a successful digital transformation, both political commitment and capital investment are necessities. Mohamed Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Interesting. Now, the Central Bank of the Gambia is to establish the country's first capital market to create a platform for buying and selling financial securities and help provide funding for businesses. Momodu Gajaga attended the presentation at the GCCI office in Bichilo, and he fastened this report.
When it comes into effect, according to the officials of the Central Bank of the Gambia, CBG, there will be a board set up which will be dominated by the players in the capital market sector. The GCCI will be represented, and the central bank will oversee the work of the board for an initial period. Via a presentation, the second Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, Dr. Paul Mendy, explains how capital market works.
So the capital market has these two aspects to it, the primary market and the secondary market. In the primary market, that is where you trade or issue new equity, new issues. These are issues which are not held by anyone yet. Is the company itself that is doing those issues, meaning the money that you generate from sale of those equity go to the company. So if company A wants to generate enough capital to do whatever it wants to invest in, it will go to the primary market and do an issue of shares.
Participants from the business community raised concerns about the legal framework which will guide the capital market and the technological platform to operate businesses within the capital market. Dr. Mendy gave an assurance that a software will be developed with support from the African Development Bank to make it easier and efficient for trading in Gambia's capital market. The National Assembly passed into law in 2021 the Gambia's Capital Market and Securities Bill, which establishes a commission and a tribunal to regulate the market and provide a grievance redress mechanism for accountability. Mamudu Gajaga, KTV News.
From that story by Mamudu Gajaga, we will now go for a short commercial break. And when we come back, we have some more local news stories for you, as well as international, as well as sports. We'll be right back.
As the fastest growing GSM company in the Gambia, QCell has the widest 4G plus coverage in the country, 3 times faster internet speed than our competitors. So switch now and dial *335# and enjoy what true 4G feels like. QCell, the Gambia's trusted network. The World Cup is here. Enjoy the beautiful game of football with our Samsung Smart TV. Enjoy a massive discount on any Samsung TV purchased. We have sizes ranging from 32 to 85 inches, packed with an ever-evolving variety of content and features. The Samsung Smart TV also provides your favorite video on-demand services such as Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, music streaming services, and even various games and sports content to enjoy as you please. For more information, call us on 333 217, on WhatsApp 350-555, or visit our brand shops at the ground floor of QCell building or at the Bruceby turntable. This promo lasts till 30th December.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News, and I am Jennifer Sonko. Now, 2 men are proving that disability is not inability by venturing into different trades to earn a living despite being differently abled. Umi Awaba visited the 2 men to discuss their inspirational journeys and daily struggles for survival. Here is the report.
Disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses, or activities. While some are born with disabilities, others suffer physical challenges following accidents. In the Gambia, it is difficult for many physically challenged people to secure decent or permanent employment. Many people with physical disabilities have no other means of earning a living, depend on handouts. Going against this trend are Momodu Gambu and Aliuba, who are successfully running their own small businesses. Modu, who sells tools for a living, explained how his problem started and how he started his business.
I got 7 years.
I got this sickness when I was 7 years old. It's called polio. I used to walk before, but one day I fell and was taken to hospital. That was how they discovered that it was polio. I am a sportsman and I represent the Gambia in powerlifting competitions. I realized that aside from that, I was not doing anything else. So I decided to start a business so other differently able people like myself can do the same or something better.
Modu is also a family man with a wife and children. He said the little he earns from this business is what he uses to sustain his family. However, he says he faces lots of challenges.
The difficulties I face are many, with the business and also discrimination from people. Sometimes, the drivers will refuse to take me because of my condition, which is the biggest difficulty we face.
Nonetheless, Momodu encourages other differently abled people to learn skills or engage in something meaningful, and not to resort to begging.
I want to tell my fellow differently abled people to try and engage in doing something, because in one way or another, we all have abilities.
Aliuba, a shoemaker and an aspiring musician, says he became disabled at the age of 6. Despite his condition, Aliu says people are kind to him. He wants help to expand his business.
To get money to go and do my recording, it's not easy for me, you see. But I try my best, you see. I need help about my music, and I need help too about the things I'm doing, because it's not easy sometimes. You can be around without no customer. It's not easy to have something to eat. It's not easy, you see. Yeah, we just keep patient, you see. It's all about that.
Mr. Ba adds that, like many other differently able people, he also faces numerous difficulties.
Face some difficulties, difficult things. Sometimes about survival thing, but it's not easy. But I keep patient. It's what I choose in my life.
The example of these two people should inspire everyone that, despite your condition, be determined and engage in productive activities that will help you earn a decent living. Reporting for QTV News, I am Umi Awaba.
Disability does not mean inability. Now from that, the community of Jara Soma in the Lower River region is rejoicing after the installation of solar lights on the Trans-Gambia Highway. Our regional correspondent, Bakari Baji, seeks people's reaction to this exciting development, and this is his report.
Jara Soma is one of the busiest commercial towns in rural Gambia, with approximately 15,000 inhabitants. The new solar lights are expected to improve safety and security and boost the socio-economic development of the town. Yaya Jajusi, the chief of Jara West, said the solar lights are part of the Senegambia Bridge project funded by the African Development Bank and the government of the Gambia. He further highlighted the significance of the solar street lights.
They told us that they will put lights when the road is complete. Thieves operate in darkness. They don't like street lights.
Binta Oba, an entrepreneur and teacher, expressed delight and advises people to take ownership of the project for its sustainability.
Now that we have street light, what I'm saying generally is for us that live in the community here, let us make sure that we don't misuse them. Let us make the best use of them and let us work towards sustaining them. I think that's the most important thing. Now that we have it, but let us also sustain them.
Jalil Lamin Suso and Lamin Drame, both natives of Somatown, applauded the government of the Gambia and further encouraged drivers to drive with care to avoid hitting the street lights pole.
I pray for President Barrow so that he will be able to put street lights in all parts of the country. Let us endeavor to protect the poles and the lights. Let's also advise the drivers to be careful not to damage the poles.
This solar light project will cover all the villages within the Trans-Gambia Highway. Reporting for QTV News, I am Bakari Balde.
Beautiful. Congratulations to the residents of Soma. Now let's take a look at what is happening beyond our borders. Now, in what is described as a major breakthrough, a surprise ceasefire deal has been reached in Ethiopian civil war, with both sides agreeing to halt their two-year conflict, which led to thousands of deaths, displacements and warnings of famine. Aliou Cisse reports.
The conflict between the government of Ethiopia and forces in its northern Tigray region, which started in November 2020, has destabilized the country and left thousands dead and others living in famine conditions. The conflict followed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's order for a military offensive against regional forces in Tigray in response to what he claims was an attack on a military base housing government troops to steal weapons. The truce signed between the Ethiopian government and Tigrayan forces should allow aid deliveries to resume. According to the World Health Organization, almost 90% of people in the northern Tigray region need food aid. The BBC reported that about a third of the region's children are suffering from malnutrition. This is not the first ceasefire in the conflict. A previous one was breached in August, just months after both sides committed to it. This time, though, the agreements have gone further. The Ethiopian government officials and representatives of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, have signed up to a disarmament plan and the restoration of crucial services, including aid supplies. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has described the agreement as monumental and committed to implementing it. Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who mediated the deal agreed after a week of talks in South Africa, said it was just the beginning of the peace process. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed it as a first step to lasting peace. A power struggle, an election, and a push for political reform are among several factors that led to the crisis. The escalation came after months of feuding between Mr. Abiy's government and leaders of Tigray's dominant political party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. For almost 3 decades, the party was at the center of power before it was sidelined by Mr. Abiy, who took office in 2018 after anti-government protest. The roots of this crisis can be traced to Ethiopia's system of government. Since 1994, Ethiopia has had a federal system in which different ethnic groups control the affairs of 10 regions. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, led a 4-party coalition that governed Ethiopia from 1991 when a military regime was ousted from power. Under the coalition, Ethiopia became more prosperous and stable, but concerns were routinely raised about human rights and the level of democracy. Eventually, discontent moved into protest, leading to a government reshuffle that saw Mr. Abiy appointed Prime Minister. Mr. Abiy liberalized politics, set up a new party, the Prosperity Party, and removed key Tigrayan government leaders accused of corruption and repression. Meanwhile, Mr. Abiy ended a long-standing territorial dispute between neighboring Eritrea, earning him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. Tigray's leaders saw Mr. Abiy's reforms as an attempt to centralize power and destroy Ethiopia's federal system. Tigray defied the central government to hold its own regional election. The central government, which had postponed national elections because of coronavirus, said it was illegal. The rift grew when the central government suspended funding for Tigray and cut ties with it in October. At the time, Tigray's administration said this amounted to a declaration of war. After previous failed ceasefires, it will be hoped this one will hold. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Looking forward to lasting peace. Now, from that story by Aliou Cisse, we will now recap our main headlines. We heard from Saliu Tal, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, on the prospects of justice for the victims and prosecution of ex-president Yahya Jammeh and alleged co-perpetrators for their alleged crime. Government ministries, departments and agencies have highlighted the general challenge of internet connectivity on their current ICT infrastructure and projects. The Central Bank of the Gambia is to establish the country's first capital market to create a platform for buying and selling financial securities. We visited 2 men to discuss their inspirational journeys and daily struggles for survival to prove that disability is not inability. And in international news, in what is described as a major breakthrough, a surprise ceasefire deal has been reached in Ethiopia's civil war, with both sides agreeing to halt their 2-year conflict. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.